My grandfather was able to help a lot of Vietnamese people move from Vietnam and settle down in Seattle.
Hi everyone, I'm Skye. Today we're going to talk with my friend Emily, who's half Vietnamese, on what it was like growing up in the US as a mixed child, then moving to Vietnam. If you want to continue seeing more interviews of locals and foreigners in Vietnam, hit the subscribe button, and until then, let's get started. Hello, thank you so much for being here. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Emily. I'm from Seattle, Washington, and I've been living in Vietnam for about 2 months now.
Welcome. What initially brought you here?
So I teach English. I've been an English teacher in Seoul, South Korea, and then in Madrid, Spain. So I decided I wanted to mix it up a little bit, and I am part Vietnamese, so I thought it'd be really cool to reconnect with my culture.
How long have you been in Korea for?
I was in Korea for a year, and then I was in Spain for 2 years.
So you said you're part Vietnamese. Can you please introduce your background?
So my dad is from Nha Trang, and he moved to America when he was about like 7 years old. His dad worked for the Navy.
The US Navy?
Yeah, the US Navy. So they left in 75 to go to America, and they were one of actually the first Vietnamese families that moved to Seattle. My dad's obsessed with that fact. He brings it up every single day.
That's a fun fact.
My grandfather was able to help a lot of Vietnamese people move from Vietnam and settle down in Seattle. Their house was always full of like people that were coming in and helping them find housing, helping them find jobs.
That's awesome. That's amazing. What's the Vietnamese community like in Seattle, Washington?
It's actually really big. We have a little Saigon, actually. Yeah, it's so cute. And I think it's like really close-knit, but there's a lot of Vietnamese people who live in Seattle.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So growing up, I feel like it wasn't very isolating to be Vietnamese in America, but that's just because I grew up in Seattle. Like I definitely have been reading a lot of Vietnamese American authors who grew up in like more of middle America, and their experience of being Vietnamese is very different from mine.
Because you have a Vietnamese community.
Exactly. I know that there's a lot of, it's in Anaheim too, right?
Yeah, there's a little Saigon in Southern California.
And then somewhere in Texas, I can't remember where.
Houston, Texas.
Yes.
Yeah, those are the
Oh my
big
God.
two. Can you speak any Vietnamese?
No. Oh my God, I can't speak any Vietnamese. It's horrible.
Are you going to take some lessons?
I'm gonna take lessons. That's actually the biggest reason why I wanted to move here.
Same.
Because I just feel like there's me, and then I have like 7 cousins and my sister. And all the cousins are younger than us by like 5 or 10 years. And so they're like 5 years old or whatever. And my grandma was able to raise all of them. So she taught them Vietnamese. But when we were younger, she was still like being a girl boss. So she had no time to teach us. So I was talking to my 5-year-old cousin, and she was like, I know that you and Olivia, that's my sister, are jealous of us, like all of us cousins. And I was like, oh, like why are we jealous of you? And she was like, because we can speak Vietnamese and you can't.
Diva!
I was like, you're right, I am jealous.
How did you know?
Yes, right. I'm like, that's so disrespectful.
Kids these days, they're just so blunt.
Right. But yeah, I want to learn Vietnamese really badly. It's intimidating.
You're in the right environment.
Right. It's just so like tonal, which is what scares me.
Can you understand Vietnamese?
I didn't even like realize that my dad could speak Vietnamese because he never spoke it in front of us until I was in like maybe high school. Because he always told like me and my friend, he was like, I don't speak Vietnamese. And then in high school, he just in front of all of us, and we're like, wait a second, you said you couldn't do that.
Liar, Dad.
Right. I'm like, you should have taught us.
So you're part Vietnamese. What else are you? I don't know how else to ask, but
There's like no good way to ask that. My mom, she is from America, but her grandmother, so my great-grandmother, is from Japan, from Hokkaido. She met my great-grandfather when he went over to fight in the war in Japan, and she was like selling coffee from a coffee cart, and they met and they fell in love. She moved straight away to America. I think she actually, once she arrived to America, was in one of the internment camps in Seattle. Guess what the internment camp is now? Like the place where it was.
is it Starbucks?
No, it's a fair, like a county fair.
That's weird.
People are doing roller coaster rides where there was internment camps. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy. You know the internment camps in Anaheim? Do you know what that is now?
What?
Disneyland.
No way. No way.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Isn't it crazy?
Why are they both like roller coasters?
That's
now?
true, like entertainment.
Yes, that's insane. I don't know what that means.
If somebody can give us the answer to that, let us know.
We need the answer.
Oh wow, connecting the dots. That's
Yeah.
crazy. What do you like to do in your free time here in Vietnam?
Well, okay, first of all, I've only been here for 2 months, so it's like very chaotic. Like I'm just trying to catch up with everything. But I really like shopping here. The Viet fashion is amazing. Like I love all of the small Viet brands that like I'm obsessed with shopping. And I also love the food here. So I love doing like little independent food tours and like trying out new places, especially the ones that I see on Instagram or whatever. I really want to get into more creative stuff while I'm here. I know that there's a lot of like pottery workshops and all sorts of stuff. Saigon is such a creative space, and I think that there's a lot of creative people here.
What's the biggest culture shock you've experienced in Vietnam so far?
First of all, the traffic. The traffic is crazy, I'm not gonna lie. Because I came from Madrid, right? And Madrid is an incredibly walkable city, and there's subways and just so walkable. And so when I came here, I was like, okay, like I'm gonna go for my daily walk. And I like walk out the door and I'm like stepping down the road and it's like motorbikes coming all over the place. There's like no place to walk on the side of the road. It's just like so chaotic. Like I love the chaos, but it's a culture shock for sure.
To me, it feels like a video game. Come out in any direction.
Yes,
Yeah.
Frogger.
Yeah.
Like, just trying to- And then I think another culture shock is like, I think that the expat community like really surprised me, just because I think that there's kind of an unwillingness to engage with the culture at times with some of the expat community. It's just very surprising to me that you'll meet somebody who's been here for maybe like 10 years and they can't speak any Vietnamese. They don't even know like one Vietnamese dish besides pho.
Yeah, or banh mi.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They don't have any Vietnamese friends. At times it feels like maybe Vietnam is kind of like a playground for like expats instead of like...
Emerging themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
And that's like a little bit of a culture shock as well.
It's a bit of a red flag if you ask me.
It's a red flag. That's exactly what it is.
You lived here, US, Spain, and Korea. What's your favorite place you've lived so far? I guess you shouldn't include Vietnam because you just got here.
That's so hard.
Oh, they're all different.
Okay, yeah, because living in Seoul, it was my first time living abroad, so it has such a special place in my heart. Like every time I think of it, I just like have this like warm fuzzy feeling, and it's such a livable city. Like the trains are fantastic, the food is amazing, the culture is great. But I think that maybe the culture of Madrid was a little bit more on my wavelength. They're just so open and progressive in Madrid, and there's always like so much to do within the city, which I really like. The museums. I miss the museums in Madrid and Seoul so much. So if you have any museum recommendations for me here, let me know.
If you have any recommendations, let her know.
Let us know. I miss museums so much. That's one of my favorite things.
How's it different living in Vietnam versus the US?
The main difference is that I do feel like there's more of a sense of community here. I feel like in America, we're just so isolated from each other. It's so difficult to even see people that live maybe 10 minutes away from you. It's so hard to have third places where you gather with your friends. Here, it's just so much more community oriented. The other day, I saw like a little motorcycle crash, and everybody like rushed over to like help and like pick them back up, you know, put their bike back together.
Yeah.
But I feel like in America, it's very like, if you see something happen on the side of the road, you just keep driving.
Or just drive really slow to watch it.
You're looking a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're not helping. I feel like it's definitely more community oriented here. I mean, obviously, I kind of look like a dumb foreigner most of the time. In America, if I'm struggling, I feel like people would just walk past me. But here, there's always going to be a little like Viet auntie who's like, no, like don't do it like that, do it like this.
Oh, sure.
Who's going to help me out.
How long have you lived abroad for?
This will be my 4th year abroad. I miss Christmas so much.
Yeah. What's the hardest part about living abroad?
Number one, feeling like a dummy all the time. Like you're always in somebody else's culture, so you never really know exactly how you're supposed to navigate certain situations. But there's also a freedom in feeling like you don't know anything all the time as well.
Being like oblivious?
Learning from scratch every single day is a really exciting challenge. But at the same time, I just like really miss my family.
Sure.
I'm so close with my mom and my sisters, my whole family, so it's really difficult to be away from them.
What was like growing up half Vietnamese in the US? What was like growing up as a mixed race?
I don't think that I had a lot of difficulties growing up, just because I did live in a predominantly Vietnamese community or Asian community in Seattle. And I do believe like as generations go on, it does get a bit more progressive. I was good on that front. But I do know my little sister, she has faced a lot of like really interesting comments throughout her life. I know that people have said like things about her eyes and like called her slurs before. So I think definitely dependent.
Is your sister, is she more Asian looking?
Yeah, she's got straight hair. Yeah, she's got more of like the Japanese face. She takes after her father, I think. I take after our mother. And then I also think the sexualization of like Asian women is also like a big factor into that as well. And I think being half white and half Viet, it attracts like a certain, you know what I'm saying?
Type of creep.
Yes, exactly.
I do think mixed Vietnamese women are really beautiful. They're really beautiful. Like mixed races or mixed Asians or mixed Vietnamese are really pretty.
Yeah, any type of like mixture is wonderful.
Have you experienced any interesting reactions from Vietnamese when they know that you're mixed or have Vietnamese here?
They always assume that it's my mother that's Vietnamese, which is so funny. But also, not that I'm half, but they're very interested that I'm from America and I'm Vietnamese and I'm here. They're always like, oh, but like, why are you in Vietnam if you could be in America? They're like, don't you want to make more money in America? I'm like, I don't want to live in America. It's horrible there. It's so much better here. Vietnamese people straight up ask me like, why would you move here? Like, it's horrible here. And I'm like, what? Like, it's great in Vietnam. My grandma wishes I was in America too, so.
I guess what's your favorite thing about living in Vietnam?
I think one of my favorite things about living in Vietnam is being able to engage with the culture. Just because growing up, I feel like maybe I wasn't as involved with my Vietnamese side as much as I wish I was. So this is a really great opportunity for me. And then I would also say that I love the people. Everybody here is so like warm and friendly. Vietnamese people are just so fantastic. Lastly, the travel. I love traveling around Vietnam. It's so gorgeous. It's insane how beautiful it is.
Where have you been so far?
Well, we just went to Bang Tre in the Mekong Delta, and that was beautiful. And I was just in Hoi An, which is so gorgeous. But I'm just about to go to Hanoi, which I actually haven't been to yet, so I'm excited.
I heard Hanoi is more old-fashioned. I don't know.
That's why I feel like I'm glad that I went with Saigon, just because that was one of the things that put me off from South Korea, because it was a little bit more conservative.
Oh, in South Korea?
Yeah, like there was a Pride festival of course, like during Pride Month. The protest against it was actually bigger than the parade itself. Yeah,
That's crazy.
The police had to escort the parade, like to make sure that nobody was hurt, because that's how crazy the protest was. I liked living in Korea, but I think the conservatism was a little bit
extreme. That's crazy that they would protest against that. That's not it.
Exactly, and I feel like Saigon is definitely a little bit more progressive in terms of all of that.
What's your favorite place in Vietnam so far?
Nha Trang.
Nha Trang? Why?
The beach. The beach is so gorgeous, and then also I'm biased because that's where my dad's from.
You look like a beach girl too.
I'm such a beach girl.
Yeah.
I love swimming. I kind of wish that I lived near a beach, but it's only a 7-hour train.
What's your unpopular opinion of Vietnam?
My unpopular opinion about Vietnam is, why is there condensed milk in everything? I'm so lactose intolerant. I thought everybody was lactose intolerant. Like, right?
I'm lactose, but I could drink condensed milk.
Okay, why do I think that's true? Because the condensed milk doesn't bother me. It's just the fresh milk.
Yeah, right? That's weird.
Is there something going on there? Is there no lactose in condensed milk?
Maybe there's no lactose. I feel like we're discovering shit.
Right?
Yeah,
This is crazy.
Yeah.
Because you're right, it doesn't upset my stomach. But ice cream, oof. But I thought most Asians were lactose intolerant.
I think we are.
But there's milk in everything.
You know what? I was watching this girl's YouTube, German Vietnamese girl, but she's saying in Vietnam they process the milk here so it gets rid of the lactose in the milk or something like that.
That would make sense. So I can start drinking the milk. Kind of excited.
Test it first. Because I did buy Dilat milk one time and I'm lactose and it didn't really help. So test it out. You know, that is interesting. We could drink condensed milk, but not
What is the deal with that? That's crazy.
If anybody knows the answer.
Yeah, let us know.
We're learning here.
Yeah, right. Oh, also, sugar doesn't belong in everything. I think there's too much sugar in everything here in Vietnam. Like the juice that you get on the side of the road, they're always trying to put, maybe it's because I'm a foreigner, they like sugar.
Especially with orange juice here.
It's the orange juice.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's already sweet enough.
I feel like the orange juice here, when I first saw it, it looked like a overripe lime.
The fact that it's green is like very like off-putting at first.
I feel like it's not as sweet as it is back in the US.
I heard that oranges that grow in the tropics just naturally become green. I don't know why.
Oh.
What's your unpopular opinion?
My unpopular opinion?
Vietnam.
The smog.
Oh my god.
When you're driving on a bike
Why do I get a
and
headache immediately?
Yes.
Yes.
and you get this exhaustion from the motorbikes, and I've actually gotten an eye infection from.
No way.
Yeah,
That's
when I first
crazy.
moved here, I was taking a Grab home, and some debris like flew in my eye. I got a bump in my eye. It looked like a fat zit. Be aware.
The smog is horrible. So I feel like my skin is worse.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes my throat is like very irritated from it.
I've gotten like a sore throat because of the exhaustion. It does make people sick, and the air quality is not the best. My My unpopular opinion, along with the smog, is litter everywhere.
The litter is crazy.
Yeah.
Like people just like you're walking down the street and you see them throw something.
They just
on the
throw
side of
it.
the road. I'm like, hold on a second. This is not what Greta Thunberg was talking about. Like, such a beautiful country, but I think the pollution's crazy.
I think the trash management could be more regulated.
Absolutely. And I think that's also true along the coast of Vietnam as well. I feel like there's a lot of pollution on the beaches, which isn't the fault of anybody. It's just like the system itself, which needs a little bit. Wait, okay, I have another unpopular opinion.
Sure.
You know Time Out magazine?
And yeah, sure.
Okay, so they published a list of like 40 best neighborhoods in the world. 40 best neighborhoods in the whole world, and Vietnam's was Thao Dien. And I'm like,
Because it's full of expats.
thank you. I'm like, that is not the coolest city in Vietnam.
It doesn't even feel like Vietnam there.
I feel like it's so disrespectful that they said that. That might be my unpopular opinion.
It's a bubble.
Like I said earlier, a refusal to engage with the culture.
Oh yeah, sure. Pros and cons of living in Vietnam.
Pro is that I think the people are so warm. Con, I think it's a bit difficult in terms of countries to move to. Like I think if you're going to move to a new country, easy ones are like Korea or somewhere in Europe, but Vietnam doesn't exactly make it easy for you.
How so?
You know what I mean? I think the hiring process, number one, is crazy. Like I think that fact that you have to get here and find a job for the most part. I mean, I found my job before I got here, but the biggest advice that everybody says is, oh, just show up, and then you'll get a job. And I'm like, show up in a country without a visa, without a job, like that's crazy. I don't think it's exactly like the most starter-friendly country.
Sure.
Another pro is that the food is amazing. The culture is amazing. Everybody is so welcoming. But the con, I think it's that like smog. Like, and I think it's like trying to get around the city. We really need a metro system so bad.
Soon, they're building one underground. It should be ready in a few years, so I've heard. Let's see.
I heard they've been working on that metro system forever.
Anything else you want the viewers to know about you?
Ask me about myself. That's a hard one. No, I don't know.
Arts and crafts. I could plug your socials later.
Oh, okay, yeah. Follow me on Instagram, and I love to craft. So if you guys have any suggestions in Saigon, let me know. I love recommendations.
What kind of crafts do you like to do?
I like to draw. I like to make little zines, and I want to get into pottery really badly.
Any advice or messages you'd like to share for the viewers out there who may consider coming to Vietnam?
If you feel called to it, you need to like push yourself, do something scary. I think that a big part of moving abroad is just challenging yourself. The one thing that we were kind of put here on this earth to do is to like engage with each other and engage with different cultures, and the best way to learn about the world is to go out into it. And it's really scary and it's really hard, but I mean, that's life.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. I learned a few things.
I feel like we really we were connecting dots over here for sure.
Tambien.